All right, Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. It's another Sunday! Woo! Aren't we blessed and grateful to continue to be together? It is the heart of the holiday season. We're right in the middle of it. And, we're heading up into Christmas. We just had a wonderful Thanksgiving a week and a half or so ago. We're leading into Christmas, the amassing of the Christ presence. And so as we move through, this morning, let's continue to just be mindful and aware that the Christ lives within us. And it simply means the anointed one. That's what it means, that each one of us are anointed, that you are anointed today. So I invite you into that as we explore more wonderful, extraordinary spiritual principle today at Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. Welcome. Let's enjoy the ride together.
So here it is, the first weekend in December. Isn't it beautiful? Look at, I have to give props out to Reverend William and Elizabeth who set this beautiful stage for us. Isn't it gorgeous? I can't wait till next year when we're all together and have our giant poinsettia tree over like we normally do. But until then, this is our set for the holidays. So welcome to the holidays at the Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. My talk today is called Spiritual Conviction, and I have a story to tell you about as we go into this talk. First thing I wanted to say is this with this slide. Wherever the mental vision is set, there at the end of that vision is either freedom, bondage, joy, or grief. Wherever the mental vision is set, there is at the end of that vision, freedom, bondage, joy, or grief. I want you to think about that because in Scripture it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," in the 23rd Psalm. I kind of switched that around. Here's what I say. The Lord is my shepherd, and I see what I want. That's how I'm going to change that around. Let me tell you the story. So years ago, when we went, was it 2 years ago? No, just a year ago, we went to Bhutan. And there is this monastery at the top of a hill, and you've got to climb, it felt like 45 miles. Let's just say it felt like 45 miles. It really wasn't. It was probably just a couple miles. But it is like straight up, and it is the most amazing monastery at the top of this mountain. It is the pinnacle. It is the climax of the entire trip. And when I went on that trip, I think maybe I shared it. I had already been injured, and I was allowing myself to go through rehab so I could go on this particular hike. We're on the way up. I'm riding a horse halfway to the halfway point because that was my deal with my rehab doctor, and we get like 10 minutes into this horse walking down a pathway. It's muddy, it's in a rut, and the horse trips and falls, and subsequently I fall off the horse. Now, when I fell, these are the shoes that I was actually wearing on the trip. You can't see this. I don't know if Jeff can get up close. See these shoes right here? These were the shoes that I was wearing, and the side of my shoes got caught on the stirrups as I pulled myself out, and they ripped in half, literally ripped in half. So here I am heading up this mountain, and my shoes are torn in half, and my feet are coming out of both sides of the shoes, and now I'm injured because the horse fell on top of me. So the reason I bring this up is because as I talk about spiritual conviction today, I knew I wanted to get to the top of that mountain. Now, there were obstacles standing in my way. Now, if I'd have said, I'm not too married to getting to the top, I would have probably suffered and said, no, you know what, I'm turning around going back. But the Lord is my shepherd. I see what I want. I know what I want, even though my shoes were torn in half. Now, I'm going to finish the story as I go along. Suffice to say, I need to thank Ron and Aline and especially Ron for putting together this great plaque because this is my memorial to that trip, my spiritual conviction to get to the top of that mountain. So here we go. I'm going to continue and I'll come back to my shoes in a minute. As long as you remain on the same level of your obstacles, you can't make any progress. It's a spiritual impossibility. So, when this thing happened, when this whole shoe thing happened, if I would have remained at the level of the problem and just seen something torn in half, it would have been a spiritual impossibility for me to continue. But something said, keep going. Keep going, just keep going. So I'm climbing up this mountain with my shoes with my feet falling outside of my shoes with every single step because it's very slippery. Somehow, with the help of other people on the tour, we held it together and got to the halfway point. The halfway point was lovely. There was like water and food and a place to lie down. And everybody, it's amazing how spiritual people carry not Valium, but Vicodin and painkillers with them, because there was perfectly placed painkillers at the time. You know, just saying. So, sidetracked. So anyway, so here we are, and the guide says, give me your shoes. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I can keep going. What are you gonna do with these shoes? So he took the shoes and off he went, and I'm lying down, you know, eating the Tylenol with Motrins and trying to recover. Had I remained in the stage of the ripped shoes, we would have never gone forward, right? But in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be something that can be done. There has to be some pair of shoes somewhere that I can wear to get to the top of this hill. Now, not setting my spiritual snooze alarm, not allowing myself to get lulled into the idea that I'm not going to be able to make it up there. Lo and behold, our guide comes back, and some employee in that entire area had taken these shoes and actually sewn them together. I don't know if you can see the little thread there, the little yellow thread. That's where he had to sew the shoes on both sides. So he comes back, and there's my shoes, ready to climb up the rest of the mountain. Now, if I would have looked at this as an impossibility and never taken the idea that this is going to unfold and I am going to make it to the top, I would have turned around and found a way to get back down that mountain. But the universe had something else in store, because I knew what I wanted, and I had this conviction about it. All right? So, moving along, next slide. All the mental arguments are within our own minds. We are the arbiters of our own fate. Fate isn't destiny. It's a specific use of the law. So let's back our way into this. All the mental arguments are in our own minds. The argument could have been based on something factual like the broken shoes, but it was my mind that I had to work with first that would allow me to progress and be open to the opportunity that something else was going to happen to bring me to that place where I would succeed. Think about that in your life. All of our mental arguments, they're within our own minds. Now, people may feed us ideas, but it's our own computer. That's our own way to generate labels and accept things in our own mind. That's what's creating the outcome. We alone are the arbiters of our own fate. No one else is going to tell you how your life is going to unfold but you. You get to decide this. It's always been your decision, and sometimes you think you may have handed it over to someone else, but the decision to hand it over to someone else is actually the decision that you made. It's still happening to you, through you, by means of you, because you've allowed that to happen. Last thing, fate isn't destiny. You know, fate isn't destiny. There was no predestined thing that was going to make that horse trip in the mud, or predestined to have those shoes fixed. Nothing was predestined. There's no videotape of your life. Videotape, I'm dating myself. There's no recording of your life anywhere that's already played out and you're just kind of walking your way through it. No, you are using the law in specific ways. However you choose to use that law is how your life is going to unfold. So there's another thing. Next slide. Pop-up conflict and identifying spirit. There's this conflict that happens when we are identifying situations that are, how should I say, less than optimum. There's this conflict in our mind. How do I find God in this situation? How do I find God in scarcity? How do I find God in illness? Where is spirit in COVID? Where is the universe? Where is God in my relationships when they're falling apart? So there's this conflict that happens in our minds. I call it the pop-up conflict. How do I find spirit in those things? How do I identify spirit working through me as situations pop up? And the answer is very simple. If I would look back on my life, in the rearview mirror of my life, and see those trying times that I had really struggled with, I could realize, and I had labeled them trying, I had labeled them difficult, I have probably labeled them impossible to get out of, or it's a dead end. Think about all the ways you label things. When you label it like that, and then you look back on it, you realize it wasn't the end of anything. It was actually the beginning of something else. So when we have that pop-up conflict of saying, where is God in this? We just have to have this absolute understanding that God is in this and we are moving through this. I am moving through this. This experience is going to make me more well-rounded. I will evolve into a greater human being. There's an awakening process happening here, and it's happening as a result of what I think is negative, but it's actually happening as a result of Spirit moving through all situations with me. All right? Spiritual conviction affirmation. Here it is. Act as though I am and I will be. Act as though I am and I will be. Now, you might say to yourself, I've said that before, but I've made so many mistakes, and I continue to make them. So one of the key things to do is when we look at that and we have that conviction, see myself and just allow it to be, we can never label ourselves a failure as we're journeying through that experience. We can't label ourselves a failure. This could have been, this whole experience could have been, for me, a feeling of defeat and failure. Now I have this great memento with my beads and my scarf, and it says miracle shoes of the tiger's nest. Now I have this great memento that shows me that even in the strangest of times, and what I felt could have been defeated, I climbed to the top. I made it. Against all odds. So don't label yourself a failure, because then it will happen. If I just label myself a human being moving through experiences, then the knocks and the detours and the sidesteps, they don't seem to impact me as greatly as if I were to label myself a failure. Instead, we need to crowd out those feelings of inadequacy. It's on my slide here. Instead, crowd out the feelings of inadequacy. I may not be all that I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be, is what Dr. Tom used to say. And that also meant I had to move out feelings of inadequacy and accept myself as my own spiritual authority. And when I crowd those feelings of inadequacy out, there's this, and how to do that is through gratitude. There's this overwhelming sense of gratitude about all the things that I do have, that I have experienced, that I have succeeded in. But we have to crowd those feelings out. Those feelings of inadequacy need to be moved out. Move from this, what am I supposed to do, to what am I ready to do? So you're going to shift your consciousness from, okay, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Do you ever use that line? I use it all the time. Okay, well, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? Let's change that. What am I ready to do? What am I ready to do? Move from supposed to what am I ready to do? And just remember, and this is that the old science of mind statement that drives me crazy. You are where you are because of what you are, and you are what you are because of what you consistently believe about yourself. You are where you are because of what you are. And you are what you are because of what you consistently believe about yourself. So if you want to label yourself a failure, have at it, because guess what? You're going to continue feeling like a failure, and the universe is going to provide opportunities for you to continue to feel like a failure. We can look back at this last year and it could say, and I have done this, I'm guilty myself. There are times when I go, oh my God, this year was so challenging. What a waste of a year. And actually it wasn't. I mean, yeah, there were times when I was angry and resentful and upset because I wasn't able to do all the things that I wanted to do in my life. But then I have to look at the opportunities that came as a result of this to do some real introspection work, to look at my life and to evolve into something different. And that probably would not have happened if the brakes weren't set so tightly to stop the spin of life that was going on. Inevitably, and to me, this will ultimately be one of the greatest gifts of this time would be 2020, and this epidemic would allow us to see ourselves differently and create a consistency around that belief, so the unfolding of whatever happens next in whatever form it happens is a belief that I was able to glean during this time period of great challenge and introspection and silence. Think about that. Next thing, spiritual conviction is the process of unmasking ourselves rather than changing or repairing others. Yeah. Spiritual conviction is the process of allowing us to be revealed instead of thinking I've got to change someone else so I feel better about them. You're not going to change anybody else. I'm not going to repair anybody else. I can only do that work with myself. Now, people may come and ask for advice and want to talk about it, and it's a discussion. But it says here, spiritual conviction is the process of unmasking ourselves rather than trying to repair other people. Think about it. All right, next thing. The possibility of greatness sits at the doorway of every person's consciousness, silently seeking admission. And what's the price of admission? You're not going to believe this. Confusion. Confusion is the way that we enter into the kingdom at times. The possibility of greatness sits at the doorway. And what do we sit at the doorway? We're like, I kind of wonder what's going to happen next. What am I going to do next? I don't know what to do. Guess what? The price of admission into the kingdom of consciousness is silently realizing to yourself that that's what I want to do. I want to move out of this state of confusion into something else. And that's the price of admission. So when you're confused, be grateful for the confusion. I know it sounds crazy, because a lot of times when I'm confused, I get mad at myself for feeling confused, thinking, metaphysically speaking, I am bringing about more confusion. But confusion now I can look at and say, this is my great indicator. This is the knock. Confusion is the knock on the door for me to get into a consciousness of change. That confusion, instead of downplaying it, instead of criticizing it, that's a way for me to say, now I'm ready to do something about it. I'm changing it. Have a spiritual conviction about it. Embrace confusion. It's the first step in determining your path. When I embrace that confusion, I really don't know what's going to happen. I really have no idea what's going to happen. But I know this. If I embrace it and say, it's an energy that is transforming itself into clear direction, that's my prayer. Whenever there's confusion, your prayer is for clarity. Remember that. So when there's confusion, we need to embrace it and say, this is what it is, this is the condition. And now the first step in determining my path is to recognize that confusion as the catalyst to clarity. See them happening simultaneously. It's spiritual equivalent. Confusion's spiritual equivalent is clarity. So when you're lacking clarity and you're confused, that's what we're praying in. We're praying in that idea of clarity and consistency and direction. Okay, next thing. The good we can experience is equivalent to as much good as we can conceive. Our well-being corresponds to as much well-being as our mind can conceive. All ready? Here we go. Unpack that. The good you're going to experience is equivalent to what you can conceive. And you heard me say this before, because many times people say, I can't imagine someone who's feeling pain, okay? This is the phrase that I hear. And I've used it myself. I can't imagine what it would feel like not to be in pain. Did you hear that? I can't even imagine it. Now, if I can't imagine it, how is the universe supposed to deliver a pain-free existence? I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a loving relationship. Well, if you can't imagine it, how do you expect the universe to provide it, because you haven't even opened up the door to it? Do you remember for those of you who went to Catholic Church, I remember the priest would say, may the peace of Christ be with you always. And everyone would say, and also with you. And I'm going to say this. Here's my new spin. May the peace of Christ disturb you. May the peace of Christ disturb you, because that's the only way you're going to pay attention to it. That's the only way. Because when you're not feeling peaceful, the peace of Christ, when you're not feeling that, it is disturbing. So I hope you are disturbed at times with that, because then that's the catalyst to do something different. You can sit in the confusion and call it what you want, but the reality is, let it disturb you for a while. Let it disturb you. Let it motivate you. Let it put you into a place of spiritual conviction that you know what you don't want, right? I know what I don't want. I don't want this anymore. Now, what do I want? I have to make that decision. There has to be spiritual clarity around it. So, Jesus took the ideas of faith and prayer out of the realm of speculation and theory and put them into the realm of fact and experience. Through him, with him, in him, in the unity of the Holy Spirit. Jesus took the ideas of faith and prayer out of the realm of speculation, saying, I hope there's a God that's going to take care of this. He didn't theorize about it. He said, it will be done unto you as you believe. And he put it into a realm of fact and experience. Don't touch the hem of the garment. That's not me. That's not the presence of God. The presence of God is within you. Don't think you're going to be able to touch something to make that happen. That's not, we don't have those kind of symbols like that. Faith and prayer is not speculation or theory. It's fact and experience. When you learn how to pray, speaking of which, I'm glad people turned into the prayer workshop. I wish more people would do it. Continue to get onto the website. Click on prayer. Click on learn how to pray. Because if you don't know how to pray, it's going to be very difficult for you to manifest concretely the things that you want to do. All right? So Jesus took out this idea that faith and prayer was speculation and random of some random God that's angry. No. That has a clipboard. No. Came into fact and experience. It is done unto you as you believe. This is the way you think. This is the way your life is going to reflect. When you're thinking something, the universe is going to say you shall have it and have it abundantly. Healing takes place when we refuse to participate in destructive mind behavior. The healing takes place when I'm done having the super debate with that little voice that's always on my shoulders, talking to me about things that I can't do, or how things are dysfunctional, or how not working properly, or I'm unhappy or unhealthy, or whatever the conversation is that you're having with all those voices in your head like Sybil. You know, all those things. Healing takes place when we refuse to participate in that destructive mind behavior, because that's not going to help you. That's not going to help us move forward in any way, shape, or form. That destructive mind behavior, identify it for what it is. Now, I'm going to say this because I have to say this. Try not to call other people out on their destructive mind behavior, because then they're going to chew you up. Because a lot of people don't see destructive mind behavior as the catalyst to more destructive events in their life. They just see themselves as the victim of circumstance, or they see themselves as a victim constantly, so then the universe gives them reasons to be victimized. So healing takes place when in yourself you say, I'm no longer going to have this discussion about how dysfunctional or how irrational or how crazy things are in my life. That's not going to bring about the solution you want. And after this year, this crazy 2020, it's essential that as we begin to close out this year and open up what could be, who knows what's going to happen in 2021, take yourself off of the destructive mind behavior, enter yourself into the kingdom of confusion, and let it disturb you enough so that you start to develop within yourself what life will be for you as things begin to unfold. Now, the timeline, don't set a timeline, we've learned this. Don't set timelines, let them happen as they're supposed to happen, when they're supposed to happen, but just allow yourself to have a bigger vision of your life at this point of what the possibilities exist and could be. Don't have them based on what's happening today. Have them based on what you would like to experience in your life. When one does that, when one sets forward that agenda, then how life unfolds begins to unfold the way we've thought about it. All right? It all starts with one simple premise. I may not be important to others, but I am necessary to God. So all of the spiritual conviction it boils down to one thing. I may not be important to other people. I may not think that I rise to the level of importance in other people's lives. And even if I do, it matters not, because what matters most is that I know and that you are necessary to God. You are a necessary part of this universal unfoldment. Otherwise, your presence wouldn't be here in this world today to experience the things you need to experience. The world wants to experience more by means of you. Are you setting up that more? Or are you staying home and hunkered down and not allowing yourself to even dream of what can be? Do some homework with yourself. Move out of that state of confusion and just understand that it's the catalyst to change, and that no one knows what the future holds right now. We just don't. But I do know one thing, that it's going to unfold. It's going to be okay. Everything has always turned out that way. We're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Just continue to breathe. Continue to breathe. Things may be changing, and there may be people who have come in and out of our lives during this experience. Regardless, we just know that everything that's happening with your own life, with my life, is necessary for God to unfold. There are lessons to be learned for myself. Other people may view my life and see things, and I may see their lives as lessons I choose to learn. But it starts with the simple premise that you are important to one entity, and that entity is that universal spirit that created you. In its image and likeness, nonetheless. All of it. Spiritual conviction. Allow yourself to experience it. And so ends your lesson.
Beloved CSL Palm Desert community, what a unique year it has been, and a special time that we're in right now during the holiday season. Because of this unique year and this special time, Dr. Joe has a special invitation for us regarding the bridge that we're building between 2020 and 2021. So I invite you to listen and receive the message Dr. Joe has for us right now.
Thank you, Reverend Charles. And speaking to Reverend Charles, I want to thank him for his commitment to our center. Reverend Charles moved his entire family down here last year, and thinking we were going to start making this transition into the new leadership of our center. And then COVID hit, so he's spent an entire year just kind of waiting, and he's still doing a lot of work, but he's also waiting to get his hands into this transition. So I just want to thank him for his service and to acknowledge the fact that he's been here almost a full year, and we're ready to put him to work in the new capacity as our new leader. So until then, you should be receiving a letter in the mail that I sent out this week, along with your year-end statements. And I want to share this with you because it's a really important time at our center. I start every letter out that I've ever sent with gratitude, thanking all of you for your continued support us. I know it's been a real challenging year for some of you, challenging financially, emotionally, physically, all of those things. And so I appreciate the support that you've given our center. We all do. And we want to continue doing what we're doing. And like Reverend Charles said, we want to build the bridge from 2020 to 2021. And in order to do that, we need to recognize some of our accomplishments and some of our challenges that are ahead. One of our accomplishments, we had to pivot everything that we did in March about how we do church, how we do our center's work in education and in Sunday services. So you saw us quickly move into a place where we were able to identify ways to communicate with you. Hence, you have the 10 o'clock morning services, of which we have had close to 265 to this taping, 265 different daily services, which unless you're a news company, that's outstanding. For a center to be able to do that is just amazing work. So while the doors appear to be closed, we've never been more open and available to our spiritual community. So that's great. We've never reached more people than we had before. But the problem is it also presented a challenge, a financial challenge for us. By the end of this year, we expect to be short by about $175,000 in Sunday donations. And that's a pretty big chunk. That would take a significant amount of our savings to continue doing this. And so we're appealing to you right now during this giving season, during this holiday season, for you to step up and actually contribute a little bit more, whatever you can do, to offset that amount so we can build that bridge effectively from 2020 to 2021. Because we want to make sure that when the center opens, and it will, there are plans, the vaccines are coming out, we got plans. I know that the cities and states are going to be lifting some of the restrictions, and as they do that, we'll be opening our doors. And we want to make sure that we've continued to sustain and maintain the talent that we've had at the center and the way the center operates. In order to do that, we need your help. We need your help, and that's what we're appealing to you to do today. So please consider giving generously this holiday season over and above what you would normally do. Again, we are short about $175,000, and it would be nice to break even or better. I call it break even or better. Let's build the bridge to break even or better for this holiday season. So thank you so much for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. We can't wait to see you and fill our sanctuary filled with that love and energy again. Bless you this holiday season.
That was a tasty feast, wasn't it? Are you spiritually fed? I'm spiritually fed. What another great Sunday. So let's wrap it all up in a wonderful bow, this gift we've been given, this wonderful bow of prayer and gratitude. So I invite you to join with me one more time in prayer as we continue to be so grateful during this holiday season for all of the ways that we're blessed, all of the ways that we receive our spiritual good, like today. What more could we want from the Spirit than all that we have and all that we're receiving and all that we give and share? So I am grateful for this morning's service. I know as we leap into a new week, as we launch into our week during this time, that we're blessed, that we're aware of all the ways that we're blessed, and that we have the best week ever. I'm so grateful for our spiritual community, this Center for Spiritual Living Palm Desert, Dr. Joe and the music and our sacred prayer practitioner team. I'm grateful for our team, our center, our beloved family. In one word, I call all of it magnificent. And together let us say, and so it is. Amen. You know what I say, make it the best week ever. Peace and love.